Good evening. We will now reconvene for open public hearing. Item 3.01, I'd like to introduce Mr. Eric Thompson to introduce or to go over the 2022-2023 annual expenditure budget.
All right, Vice President Ewers, members of the board, Superintendent Driscoll, thanks for having me tonight to talk about the December budget revision. It is fairly routine budget revision in there. So usually we get our budget revisions December and May. You'll get notified, all the districts will get notified, in October, November, if there is a need to revise it due to the general budget limit being lower, and we had a pretty sizable decrease in enrollment, which prompted the need to have the revision. So that decrease of enrollment, and I think I've said this before, but basically the enrollment equals our funding. So, and that's really what the revision is. It's not like we have to go in and cut positions or anything. It's more just a revising of the budget limit numbers and doing that. But some context on there, the average daily membership, that's what we get paid on. That has decreased about 250 students from last year to this year. So for context, 250 students, Carminati is at 290, Rover 319, Meyer, that doesn't include preschool. Meyer has a lot of preschool students. They're not included in ADM, so it's not, so they have more students than that in there. But just for the context, that's how many kids we lost from last year to this year. So losing almost all of, losing almost the equivalent of Carminati. It's a pretty good chunk. When you look at the dollars and cents of that decrease, 250 reduced the revenue control limit by about 1.4 million. That's the equivalent of 20 entry-level teachers there, or about a 1.5% raise in the M&O budget. If we had that money, we could use that for raises. So, and detail out some of the general budget limit numbers. So I want to show you this one to kind of show what is a variable revenue versus a fixed one. And so how that is impacted by the decrease of enrollment. So the revenue control limit, the RCL, that's kind of that uses the base funding for a lot of it, and the ADM. So that varies with the decrease of enrollment, and that's going to be when the legislature gives more money, for example, in the base, that really hits that, the biggest one there. District Additional Assistance, DAA, that one is on ADM as well, but we can split that. You put some of it in M&O or put some of it in capital. We have some control over where that one goes. M&O override, that's benefiting a shrinking district like us because it uses current year funding amount. So the funding that the legislature gave us increased, but it uses prior year ADM. So that 250 decrease hasn't hit yet. So if you're a shrinking district, that's a good thing for that. DSEG though, that is where I want to emphasize there. That is static. So if you have a decrease in ADM, DSEG is staying the same. If you got an increase in funding from the state, doesn't matter. So DSEG is just where it is. So that's not moving. Carry forward, that's just kind of like money left over in the bank. So however much we didn't spend from the previous year. So it's there as part of the general budget limit, but if you spend it, it's not like it's going to come back next year. And then Prop 123, it's pretty small, less than 1% of the whole amount. But I'm just putting it on there just to put it on our radar because it is scheduled to go away in 2026. So again, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's probably about 10 teachers, the equivalent of that. So it's not insignificant. So saying all that, talking about the decrease, we're okay right now because we had a lot of carry forward in there, so we can spend that down. So we're not going to have to make mid-year reductions or anything like that. But it's more of the longer-term issue that this enrollment has continued to go down, and the enrollment equals the funding. So it's something that we need to be mindful of. On that, the carry forward was a little larger than budgeted for a couple reasons. Part of it is I go real conservative how much carry forward we have, so if we have extra, that's great. I'd rather err on the side if we have extra carry forward. And so we did have a good bit of that because we had moved some ESSER, some money, some teacher salaries into ESSER to keep those class sizes small, continuity of services, so that increased the carryover. So that increase of the carryover made up for the kind of the reduction in the ADM. So we're okay for now, but that's not always going to be there. So it can help, that carry forward helps in the short term, but we're going to have to probably get the staffing levels in line with the funding moving on. And then ESSER, just as a reminder, September of 24. It's a year and a half, or a little more than a year and a half away. I think that ESSER has been a Band-Aid for a lot of things. It's kind of helped us kick some things down, kick the can down the road a little bit. But it's just gonna go away. So we've got to be planning ahead on that. So some context for the decrease of enrollment. If you look at since FY19, we've lost about 10% of our students, 1,060. FY20, the ADM measurement is only for the first 100 days. So FY20, even though COVID hit in March, the 100 days were already there, so that was done. So really the first COVID year, if you want to look at it, would have been FY21, where we had the 500 ADM decrease, and it's just continued to go down since then. If you look at the FTE numbers, the full-time equivalent staffing, so enrollment's gone down about 10%, staffing's gone down about 5%. So it hasn't quite kept up. If you see that weird spike in 22, that was a lot of ESSER positions. We added ESSER teachers in the classrooms, ESSER IAs, resource IAs. So we added a lot in there. So that's why it's kind of got a weird spike in there. But so that's where it's not quite matching the decrease of enrollment. So some of the enrollment, just some more context for that decrease of over 1,000, that'd be like losing all of Carminati and Meyer and Spercali and Rover. I mean, those are the smaller schools, so it's kind of cherry picked a little bit on that, but that's a significant amount of students and FTEs that we have to support them that we didn't cut fully for that as well. If you want to look at some bigger schools, it's not quite there to the 1060, but it's at 1,000. It'd be like losing all of Broadmoor or Frank, or Broadmoor and Frank, excuse me. So, so it's gone down a good bit. And the part of the other reason, I think the staffing levels have not decreased at the same level as the enrollment, is the small class sizes, small schools. And you look at it, so this is some examples. We got a lot of what we call open seats. So that would be fewer than 25 students in the classroom. So you got 20 kids in that classroom. We aim for about 25, so you could add 5 students to that classroom, for example, without having to add any additional staffing. So there's a lot of open seats throughout the district, which could be good for instruction, but bad for the business of the school because it's inefficient, because we could get more in there. So, but there's limits on where you can cut. So if you look at like 4th grade at Scales, you got less than 20, you're fewer than 21 students in there. Well, you can't really cut a section because then you'd have 31 kids in there. So it's kind of where they're as small as they can get with being too large to cut another section. So they're kind of in that sweet spot of having a lot of room where we could add if they're added, if they're all in there. So if you look at these 2 schools, just Scales and Fuller, there's 100 open seats we could add. And if you just look at it from a staffing standpoint, that's 4 positions based on being lower than we have capacity for. That's 4 positions we could lose, but we can't because of the distribution of the students. So that lower enrollment is reducing the funding, but it's not in a way that necessarily we can easily eliminate a position or anything like that. So this just has some more throughout just the K-5 schools throughout the district, so you can see kind of all those open seats in there. So it's kind of those small schools, small class sizes. They're great for that instructional side, but on the funding side, if we got more kids in there, it would help out, because that, having those small, that lower enrollment hurts us on a lot of other areas. So, you know, sort of that where it hurts us, I was saying, like raises, benefits, extra positions, because if we added, if we had enough students to fill those schools, even not even at the full capacity, but just at the staffing levels that we were at, we'd have a lot more money for those raises. For you know, we're doing a salary, you know, a compensation study, which will probably say we need to raise some funds, some salaries in different areas. It would be nice if we had additional funding to do that. But summary, reduction in funding due to enrollment, we're okay for now. Carry Forward's handling it. We can spend that down a little bit. ESSER is helping out because we've moved some expenses over there to keep those class sizes small. But that's going to run out. So it's going to be a longer term issue that we need to make sure that we take a look at. Need to align that staffing to the funding as best we can. You know, the funding is going down a lot faster than the staffing levels are going down. It'd be nice, give us a little more flexibility if we had more enrollment, more funding in there for those raises. Insurance costs are just going up, so we're gonna have a lot of money going into that as well. And so just extra help in different positions as well. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to address those as well.
Yes, Ms. Trejo?
Thank you, Mr. Thompson, for continuously keeping us updated on the budget. I know right now AEL is a big topic of discussion. If you can give us an update on, you know, what's going on with that and how that could impact our budget as well.
Yep. So the aggregate expenditure limit, it's a statewide expenditure limit for all the public schools. Well, excuse me, all the district schools. There are entities such as charter schools, the vouchers, they do not count in that calculation. But basically, we would be on the, it looks like right now, about $17 million if the legislature does not increase the aggregate expenditure limit that Tempe Elementary would have to cut from that. So they have until, I believe, March 1st to increase that. When the budget was passed this past year, it's my understanding there was an agreement there's going to be a special session to increase that. That has not happened, and now there's continuing discussions about whether they're going to have that now, and now there's other, oh, well, maybe they'll do it, but we want to address this as well. So there's some politics being played with it. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, it would be pretty catastrophic for our district along with every other district in Arizona. Now, we're looking at ways to deal with that, but because it's so late in the year, every district is going to have a really hard time handling that.
Thank you. And just for everyone's aware that this is the same AEL issue that we had earlier this year, I think the difference is right now is that the rush to have the special session is because we're going to have a different legislative makeup, and many of those legislators have committed to not supporting the AEL passage. So I think that was part of the rush. And yeah, thank you.
I'd like to let everyone know that President Charlotte Windsor is on the phone with us. Charlotte, do you have any questions?
Thank you, Vice President Ewers. Yes, I do. Mr. Thompson, I remember about this time last year, we were discussing other cost-saving measures like changing bus schedules, which would affect bell schedules, obviously. Are those other items? I mean, I know it's not a huge dent, but it is a help. Are those still being discussed?
Yeah, I mean, we're discussing everything that can save money, really. If it's the right thing to do for the district and the kids and the employees, I think we will do that. You brought up the bus schedules and the start times. We're looking at that. I'll leave that to Dr. Driscoll to discuss that one further, because that's a whole different thing when you're changing the bell times. But yeah, no, everything we're looking at to figure out is, even though we've always done it this way, now that we got a kind of different dynamics of the decrease in enrollment and the smaller classes and smaller schools, is do we continue on that way? Is what we've been doing working anyway that we want to spend that money? So yes, we're looking at everything.
So what was loud and clear last time this conversation came up, which if I recall correctly, the meeting had both a presentation about budget and the discussion of bell schedules. It was loud and clear that parents and community want to have plenty of notice. So if we're going to be changing things, class sizes, bell schedules, bus schedules, whatever, when are we going to start that communication so that parents know what to expect for next year?
Probably as early as
And
January.
Sorry.
Probably as early as January, so families have an ample amount of time to make adjustments.
Perfect. Thank you. That's all for me.
Mr. Lemon, Mr. Morales, you have questions? I don't have the access to that, so
Just a quick question, for the 17 million on average, that would be what percentage of the total budget, including all?
We're lucky in that our M&O budget is right around 100 million, so it's easy math. It's about 17%.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but it would be 17% for us, for Kyrene, for Scottsdale, for Flagstaff. It'd be the same percentage for everyone.
Madam Vice President, Mr. Thompson, we seem to be doing this exercise almost every year, and part of that's the declining enrollment, and part of it's the unstable situation with the state legislature and the funding. As I recall, when the legislature increased the funding to schools, I think we gave about 9% or 11% to everyone here in the school district. Is that correct?
10%, yes.
Yeah, okay. And I think in looking at the spreadsheets, I think the average teacher salary in our district is about $60,000.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And of course, new teachers are a little bit less, and
New teachers start at 50, yep.
people with a lot more history and experience and education probably get a little bit more.
Yep.
Okay. Are we going to have this discussion again, even if the expenditure limitation passes? Are we still going to have this discussion on our budget in the spring?
I think it's something that we need to look at because we're using ESSER kind of as a crutch for a lot of stuff. So we have a lot of people who are still funded in ESSER, where we're going to have to make the decision and say, okay, was this position helpful? Was it good? If it is, then we need to move it over into a permanent funding source. And so at that point, do we get rid of a different FTE, or do we move them over and then reduce essentially the money that would be in there for any raises and benefits and whatnot? So I think the discussion that is really coming up, because we're using that ESSER funding to supplement a lot of our expenses. So once ESSER is gone, I think that's kind of the warning we need to be on the lookout for.
So we know that happens in September of 23?
24.
24?
Yep.
But, okay. And I guess my preference is we start this discussion in January, and because it's with our community and with everybody that works with us, and that we work for. And I'd rather not put it off into February or March, because we're going to have to make some decisions. And Mr. Morales won't be here to take a lot of the heat, and so the rest of us will.
We can't say it was his idea and everything.
Yeah, well, yeah, he hasn't spoke up and said, do that, guys. You know, so.
But no, that is something. I mean, we're looking at everything. I think Dr. Driscoll has been looking at all of our systems and departments and schools and positions to say, to kind of evaluate that. So it's something that is going on and figuring it out. I think he's wanting, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he's wanting to get everything figured out before he presents it to everybody.
I'd like to have it all figured out before we had to make a decision, too.
Yep.
So thank you, but this is a traditional artifact that we deal with here in Tempe Elementary because we have small neighborhood schools. And that's been what the community has supported for 50 years. And so we're dealing with this, and it's painful when we have to make these pragmatic decisions about our neighborhood schools. So anyway, but I thank you for the information. Thank you for sharing the enrollment situation that we deal with. And
Thank you.
And I'll just share with the AEL, unless it gets constitutionally changed, I think we will have to do this every year unless it changes. Am I saying that correct, Eric?
Likely, unless the funding would drastically down, but yes, I think that's probably likely. It'd be a yearly, annual thing.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We're at item 3.002, the close of the public hearing. We will now reconvene.
Mrs. Ewers?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. I have one more question. Is that okay?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Sorry about that.
All right. It's okay. Mr. Thompson, actually two more questions. I know that we talked about kindergarten screeners for 4.8 students, and there was, actually it's for Dr. Driscoll, and there was a request, I believe, by Mr. Lemon to have us review that. Since enrollment and money are directly connected, are we going to see that program or that kindergarten application process update within, I think you said 60 days. Is that right, Mr. Lemon?
how far back did I say that, Madam President?
I think if
It
that
was
was
two
correct, it'd be
study
by the
sessions
next
ago.
meeting. It'd be by the next meeting this month.
Okay, so I just would like us to have those, that process for kindergarten enrollment to be well established and well advertised to help with enrollment, because we know kindergarten numbers are super important. And then as far as Mr. Thompson referred to the ESSER positions that we've added and the need to evaluate them to see if they need to be permanent. And I think we just have to be super careful when we're doing any evaluation of additional positions that we are evaluating the position and not the person in that position. So just as a heads up, I think that we need to be very clear what we're assessing so that we make the right decisions with our money. That's it. Thank you, Ms. Sears, for letting me speak again.
Absolutely. And we do have one more question by Ms. Trejo.
Yes, so I know in 2019, I believe we had a demographer come do a study for projections on enrollment, and we already had anticipated declining enrollment because of just not enough children in Tempe. And that coupled with what happened with COVID, obviously we see declines across central city districts in the valley. I was just wondering if it's something else we should look into, seeing another study so we can make, long-term plans for, some of our schools as well. Because the data we had was before COVID, even though we had already seen the declines coming.
Yeah, we could do that. I know, just because I'm a connoisseur of board docs, Tempe Union actually, I want to say last year had a demographer do a study where it shows some of that language too, but we could have one done for us. I think that'd actually be prudent.
Any more questions? Charlotte? Are you good?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. We will now close the public hearing and reconvene the regular meeting. Today is December 7th. It is 7:34 p.m. I would like to make another comment that President Charlotte Windsor is on the phone with us, so our full board is here tonight. And will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Item 4.02, approval of the agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved?
Second.
So moved by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Mr. Morales. All in favor?
Aye.
Item pass,
Aye.
Charlotte? Aye.
Aye.
All passes 5-0. Item 5.01, approval and modification of minutes from the November 16th, 2022 Governing Board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Charlotte?
Aye.
Motion passes
Aye.
5-0. Item 6.01, open call to the public. We have 2 cards this evening, and we're going to play a video. After that video is done, I will introduce them.
Persons wishing to address the board must fill out the Request to Address the Board card and submit it to the board's executive coordinator prior to the start of the board meeting. Per Governing Board Policy BEDH, Public Participation at Board Meetings, the Governing Board President shall set a time limit on the length of the comment period. For items on the agenda, individuals will be called upon when the item is introduced. For topics not on the agenda, citizens will be called upon during this portion of the meeting under Open Call to the Public. In compliance with the open meeting law, the Governing Board will neither discuss nor take action on items raised during this portion of the agenda. When necessary, issues will be taken under advisement and placed on a subsequent agenda. During the open call to the public, issues addressed must be within the jurisdiction of the board.
Our first is going to be Rachel Yanov. I hope I said that correctly. Please, if I didn't, let us know. I just want to remind you that you'll have 3 minutes, and the board will not be able to respond. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Madam President, even VFR, Vice President, board members, Dr. Driscoll and staff, thank you for your commitment to our students in Tempe and for all you do. Recently, though, a resolved issue for my daughter, some issues of process, transparency, and equity have arisen that I want to draw your attention to. On November 14th, you opened applications for middle schools for McCamey, Ward, and Aspire. At that time, when I visited the website, it was pretty clear that students in district needed to apply and write a 2-paragraph essay specific for McCamey. Out-of-district students had some other criteria that were listed. We applied the next day. My daughter was really excited. Writing 2 paragraphs is a big deal when you're a 5th grader. And then we received a rejection letter based on NWEA scores, something that was not written on the website, something that no teacher at Broadmoor had ever heard of before. I was surprised, no parent I talked to. And I am a former teacher, so I have handouts for you. If you see that there is, on figure 1, an NWEA sort of correlation to what scores should be, and then the response I got from the principal, they don't match. I think he was pulling 6th grade numbers instead of 5th grade numbers. The year's wrong. So I think there's some inconsistencies there that need to be addressed. I immediately asked for an appeal. Luckily, I used to run a school, so I know those things exist. The principal at the time told me he was a little too busy, so I didn't handle that super well. Luckily, Member Trejo and Dr. Driscoll got on the phone with me real fast, and we discussed the fact that there was some inconsistencies with the website and the response. I was directed to Mrs. Cindy Denton, who helped me. Apparently, what they meant to say was AASA scores, and my daughter had passed that. So for her process, it was fine. The concerns I have are that actually between the time the process opened and when I went back after Thanksgiving to look, the website had changed. I'm sure you guys hear a lot about charter schools. If charter schools changed their process of enrollment in the middle of an application process, they would be shut down. I used to sit on the charter board, I promise. We get really mad at people about that. So whether it's illegal or wrong, in the court of public opinion, to change the sort of instructions in the middle of it are wrong. And then I would lastly point out that it's not in IB's best interest to be overly exclusive for students. So I'm running out of time, but I would say I have 3 takeaways. 1, changing the parameters just feels wrong, and you need to live with what you originally started with. Secondarily, communicate to 4th grade and 5th grade teachers new parameters because they don't know. And thirdly, any student who's been rejected deserves to have a second.
Thank you. Our next card is for Jamie Boyd.
Hello. Thank you so much for the time. Thank you for being here. My name is Jamie Boyd. I have 2 students.
Excuse me, Jamie, I didn't mean to interrupt. Can you make sure that your microphone is on?
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, this is my first time. So I'm here today as a parent. I have 2 daughters. One is currently enrolled at McCamey in 8th grade. Another one is at Broadmoor in 5th grade. We had a similar situation to Rachel, who is just up here speaking about enrolling our daughter, or applying to enroll our 5th grader into the McCamey program. We were also denied based upon test scores, and we had a similar situation where, you know, it was not clear to us or transparent on the website that that was the criteria that was required for applying. And then also we were given kind of contradictory information when we did request that information from the school to find out what exactly, why was she denied? You know, and it was just a real shock to me because, you know, we're going into this, well, I thought we knew what was going on because we currently have a student there that had applied. We went through the process a couple years ago, and we just absolutely love the school, and we were so looking forward to having our daughter go there again. And unfortunately, I feel like we're blindfolded shooting darts at a target because the rules have changed. We were not aware of that, and we just were totally caught off guard by this. So, you know, I started looking into things a little bit more, and, you know, I had never even heard of these standardized tests being used as an entrance exam. You know, ASU posts the SAT score that's needed to get into ASU. This is middle school. We're talking about a test that 4th graders and 5th graders are taking. And these test scores are used for placement and growth and helping them. And I just feel like we're rejecting students without a real reason. As Rachel had mentioned too, IB schools, they're really cool, really different. I mean, we just love the curriculum there. I mean, it's all about, I mean, I had all these things prepared, and I'm totally getting off track and very nervous. So let me see here. It's all about being a thinker, being inquisitive, knowledgeable, communicator, open-minded. And according to the website, it says the multi-years program is inclusive by design. Students of all interests and academic abilities can benefit from their participation. So to me, it does not make sense. It's totally caught me off guard. I didn't know if you guys were aware. Also, you know, as a school, I think it should be equitable for all students to attend, regardless of your test scores. You should be able to perform in the other 170 days of the school when standardized tests aren't being given. And some of the handouts I gave to you guys are some research that I looked up on the Arizona Department of Education website having to do with how students of different ethnic backgrounds perform on the tests. And not a huge surprise, they perform a lot. Ethnically diverse students perform at
Thank you. We will now move on to the superintendent's report, item 7.01, Celebrate Excellence. Dr. Driscoll.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I have my Celebrate Excellence for this week. On Saturday, November 3rd at Frank Elementary School, the Arizona Cardinals, State Farm, Full Cart, and City Point Church distributed hundreds of meals to families in the Guadalupe community. Arizona Cardinals linebacker Dennis Gardecki, Arizona Cardinals cheerleaders, and dozens of State Farm volunteers distributed 8,000 home-cooked meals and more than 13,000 non-perishable items to 500 families through a drive-through distribution around the school. I went out there, it was raining at the time, and it was like cars all along. I call it Priest. I think it changed its name in the community, but it was, you couldn't even turn in. I waited 15 minutes to turn left before I decided, and my youngest daughter was with me, said, "Daddy, we gotta go." And so we pulled out of there, but it was a sight for to see. So it was really awesome having all our families there. The City Point Church also handed out 100 Christmas trees and 450 cozy Christmas bags. That included a warm blanket. Thank you to State Farm Good Neighbor Meal Program for supporting our community. Get School recently surprised TD3 bus drivers with snacks and treats on a school bus-themed trolley. As you may imagine, it's not an easy feat to transport preschool-age children on a school bus. So Get School Principal Jennifer Winnington wanted to express her thanks to the school bus drivers for their dedication to transporting students safely each and every day. We appreciate all our TD3 school bus drivers for their important work. Tempe Elementary is still in need of bus drivers. If you know anyone interested in joining this rewarding career, please visit www.tempeschools.org/jobs. That's www.tempeschools.org/jobs. Apply today. We were proud to offer our open house events at McCamey Academy, Ward Traditional Academy, and Inspire Academy at Connolly Middle School for parents and students interested in learning more about these incredible school options. At these open house events, families had the opportunity to tour the campus, meet teachers and current students, and to learn about curriculum and more. All events were well attended and included the opportunity for families to apply for the 2023-2024 school year. I can't believe we're saying that. Coming up next at our traditional middle school open houses events, as well as our elementary school open house events, which will take place in January of 2023. Tonight, we will celebrate excellence with the City of Tempe Fire Medical Rescue Department. Students from McCamey Academy, Connolly Middle School were given an opportunity to suit up and train like a fighter for a day. From breaking down cars with the Jaws of Life tool to extracting a victim from a smoke room, these students have now experienced a taste of what it's like to be a first responder. Please play the video.
We figure this is a great opportunity before they go to high school to let them experience what we do as firefighters. We are doing a day of bringing the middle schools out to see what it's like to be a firefighter. I love it. I love it. They're so excited. It brings me up. It brings all the other firefighters we have up. They just want to do this, and it's great to see that. We started this partnership with Tempe Elementary School District so that we can do this several times a year. Our plan is to do this twice a year, once in the fall and then again in the springtime, so that we can get all of the schools out and as many students as we can. Let them see what this is like. At this age, they don't know. They're still learning, trying to figure out who they are as individuals, let alone what they want to be when they grow up. They all seem so engaged. They have such great questions. I just love to see who wants to do this. A lot of people don't know what we do, and it's great to see and share what we do with these individuals. I love the fact that the schools are bringing such diverse people out. So it's great for me. I love it for recruitment, and I'm hoping I see a whole bunch of future firefighters out here.
And that is it for my celebrating excellence for this week.
Thank you, Dr. Driscoll. That's just awesome. I'm impressed that the students got into those uniforms. Those things are heavy. And they stood up. That was great.
Yes, and hot.
Yeah. Item 8.01, approval of the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor? Charlotte?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Mr. McGinney, do you have anybody that you'd like to introduce? Sorry about that.
Not tonight, Madam Vice President.
I didn't have that written on here, so thanks. I got my handy sidekick here, thank God. One thing I would like to highlight is how important it is for community to be involved with our public schools. And We are so privileged in this community. We had a donation of 2 pallets of non-perishable foods from the Arizona Coyotes, valued at $1,000. 300, we had an approval of 300 pre-selected TD3 families to receive complete turkey dinners from the Tempe Diablos. This is valued at $17,000. We had approval for Aguilar to accept a Cardinals Day held at Marcos Deniza High School, hosted by State Farm and the Arizona Cardinals, valued at $5,000. We had an approval for Frank Elementary to receive a donation of 1 bike and 1 helmet for each kindergarten student from Bob's Free Bikes, valued at $8,118. We had approval for 10 families from Fuller Elementary to receive a complete cooked, wow, dinner, turkey dinner from Chompies, donated by ASU quarterback Trenton Bourgade, valued at $2,000. We had the approval for 35 families from Getz and Ward to accept a food donation from Chase Construction, valued at $1,225. We had an approval for Holderman, Mosley, Scales to accept snack bags for the McKinney-Vento population, valued at $4,400 from Help Snacks. We had the approval for Rover Elementary School to accept a donation from the Sprouts Foundation and Blue Watermelon, valued at $6,000. And we had an approval from Chomley School to accept a donation in the amount of $1,000 from an anonymous donor. I would just like to say thank you to all of those people who have supported our community and our children. We will now go to item 9.01, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of a partnership between Tempe Elementary School District and the Undie Chest. Is there a motion to discuss?
Madam President, I'd like to make this motion. This is how I started out my Tempe career, was getting underwear to kids. And I'm glad there's an organization that's doing this as well. So I'd like approval of partnership between Tempe Elementary School District and the Undie Chest.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Lemon, seconded by Ms. Trejo. I too am so excited about this. All of those in favor? Aye. Charlotte?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item 9.02, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of a memorandum of understanding between Tempe Elementary School District and the Phoenix Indian Center. I'd like to open up for discussion. Is there a motion for discussion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Morales, seconded by Ms. Trejo. Any questions?
Madam President, Dr. Driscoll, what I didn't quite understand in reading the materials, whether this educational opportunity would be at one site in TD3 or be offered at all sites. And I think there were, what, 12 lessons or 12 meetings?
I think it'll be at one site, but it'll be offered where more, students from 6th to 8th grade can participate in it. So I think I don't have my computer to click on the MOU, but I think it's at one.
Mr. Morales?
I was just going to add, I'm grateful to see this. I know it's been requested a few times from Feeswood and Frank communities, so I'm glad that we can hopefully get this approved.
Madam President, Dr. Driscoll, Mr. Morales, yes, I think we need to get it approved. And it's not, it's supplementing, it's not replacing any other instructional or educational opportunity. It's additional sort of thing, and we're just donating the space and helping kids and parents understand what's there. So I thought it was a great thing.
Charlotte, did you have any questions?
None from me, thank you.
Dr. Driscoll, I did have a couple questions, as Mr. Lemon had one. The students will be transported to the location where they can get the education. Do we know?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're providing, for us, I believe we're providing the location for them to do the services, and they're reaching out to students in 6th and 8th grade to get that. So I believe, I don't know how they're getting transported there. I believe our part of the MOU is to provide the location for them to receive the services.
And I understand there was no fee to the district to do this, and it was during
Correct.
school hours. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Mr. Lemon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Charlotte?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item 9.03 for the second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy IJL, library materials selection and adoption. Before we go into this, I want to make it clear that the next four items that we'll be talking about, or 5, these are not necessarily adoptions that the board has made. They have been told to us that we will make them. And so I just want to make that really clear that based upon what we are required to do, sometimes this is part of our job. I'd like to open it for discussion. Is there any discussion?
Thank you, Vice President Ewers. Yes, these legislative mandates we've been working on for the last 4 months, and this is second review, so I'd like to make a motion to adopt Governing Board Policy IJL, library material selection and adoption as recommended.
Charlotte, would you like to second? Or no?
Sure, second.
Motion by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Ms. Windsor, or President Windsor. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. Item 9.04, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy IJNC, resource centers, media centers, and school libraries. I'd like to open it up for discussion.
I'll make a motion to adopt the proposed changes for Governing Board Policy IJNC, resource centers, media centers, school libraries as recommended.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Trejo, seconded by President Windsor. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. Item 9.05, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy IBM, teaching about controversial sensitive issues. I'd like to open it for discussion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Lemon, seconded by Ms. Trejo. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. Item 9.06, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy IMD, school ceremonies and observances. I'd like to open it for discussion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve changes to Governing Board Policy IMD, school ceremonies and observances as recommended.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Mr. Lemon. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes 5-0. 9.07, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy JF, student admissions.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the changes to Governing Board Policy JF, student admissions as recommended.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Trejo, seconded by Mr. Lemon. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Charlotte?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Item 10.01, reports from standing committees. I will have my standing committee report at the next meeting. Our meeting is this Friday. How about you, Mr. Lemon?
Yes, the Tri-District Investment Committee met, and we didn't put any new organizations on the watch list. We didn't take any off the watch list, and I think it's just the indication of the unstable situation in the stocks and bonds market and everything. So we're just cruising along like we were for the last 6 months. And I think we took a look at some of the high flyers as well as some of the low performers. And I think probably in the spring we'll take another look at those that have not performed very well at all over 3 years. But these last 2 years have been, pretty volatile and pretty difficult to suggest. But I think we're in 403B and 457B is in good hands among the districts. Committee that's looking at this, and there seems new people come on the committee and come off, and I think the people that do invest in these programs, you can save a lot of tax dollars that way from that standpoint. But you got to be in it for the long haul. The short haul doesn't work. So that's all my report. I would be glad to answer any questions.
Open for discussion. Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Item 11.01, board information. Mr. Morales, would you like to start?
Yes, the 65th annual conference will be my last conference, so I hope to see some of you there, so we can have lunch, dinner, breakfast, some kind of charcuterie board. And I'm very excited that we're having all the ribbon cuttings back to back to back. So it will be a fun time with all of you, and I look forward to introducing you all to the baby on December 21st. That is the plan. She will make the journey to the board meeting. I think it'll be her first public event, so that'll be exciting. But that's all I have for now. I'm just training for the 5K, but that's all.
Mr. Lemon?
Thank you, Madam President. Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town with work and with family obligations, but I'll try to attend through whatever we do here, Zoom or whatever the process is. Worked fairly well tonight, I thought, because I could hear Miss Windsor, and I hope she could hear us. So I appreciate that. So, but my regrets to everybody. I just won't be at these happy events, 5 days before Christmas. And my management at where I work would like me to come to work instead of attend the School Board Association annual meeting and Ms. Trejo's last official duties as president of the Arizona School Board Association. So I appreciate that. And Mr. Morales, you were on a committee too, I think, or one of the groups, and that will probably be your last time. So thank you for your service, Mr. Morales. That's all, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Ms. Trejo?
Thank you, Vice President Ewers. Just echoing the sentiments and excitement for ASBA annual ASA conference. I know Dr. Driscoll will be there, right? No? Aren't you on the ASA board? Are you fired?
Yes, but I'll be out of town, I believe it or not.
Oh, well, that's tragic. Thank you for letting us know. But Mike, will you be there, and Eric? No? Okay.
I'll make one of them come to be there for represent us.
Okay, cool.
I think I'm voting Eric right now.
Sounds good. All right. Well, yeah, just excited for that. It's been a really great, long, challenging year, but I will still serve on the executive board as immediate past president, so continuing to advocate for our district and all others in Arizona.
Thank you, Ms. Shaler. President Windsor, do you have anything?
I do, real quick. I wanted to send out my apologies for not making the pancake breakfast for the Thai Foundation. I expected to be there, but work obligations kept me away, and I know it's super important and looking forward to next year. Super excited for the ribbon cutting ceremonies. I truly appreciate all that Ms. Franklin has done to make sure that these are happening, with contacting the honored guests and their immediate families, and grateful for all that she's done to make sure that this happens, including coordinating efforts for signage and all of that. And ASBA conference, having now gone to more conferences than I've ever attended in my entire career. I will have to say I'm super looking forward to the ASBA one because it's extremely well done, and grateful for those opportunities to professionally, grow in this capacity. So thank you very much, and that's all I have.
Thank you, President Windsor. I would like to thank the parents and volunteers who have participated lately in field trips, concerts, and PTA nights. Many of our schools have been doing that, and the amount of work that goes into them is a lot, but it's very special to the kids, and it puts smiles on their faces, and you are who help this happen. The teachers who work overtime, and the parents who participate, and those who bring their children. It's very special, and I want to say thank you. Many of us attended the State of the City breakfast on Friday morning, and got an update on the city. I can just say that that we have a lot of exciting things to come, and that many people who were there are pro-public education, and I'm grateful for that, and want to thank those who came out to me and said, we got your back, it's awesome. The pancake breakfast was spectacular. The attendance was incredible. We had several of the schools perform, and they did a great job, so it was great entertainment, music, food, and conversation. For all those who attended to support the Thai Foundation and to support our schools and giving back to each of those schools, it's greatly appreciated. It's a special moment, special event, and I saw a lot of teachers and principals, not just the parents and the kids there. And they weren't necessarily just from McCamey, they were from all the schools. So I want to let them know that that's noticed, and I'm grateful, and they brought their families, so I got to meet a lot of the families too, and that was exciting. Are there any more? I'll go to item 12.01, the announcements of upcoming events. There will be an agenda committee meeting on Wednesday, December 14th and December 21st, 2022 at 11:30 a.m. The ASBA 65th Annual Conference will be held on December 14th through the 16th, 2022 at the JW Marriott Desert Ridge Resort at 5353 East Marriott Drive, Phoenix, Arizona. That's where we will be getting the cheese and breadboard, I believe, from Patrick Morales. You will be greatly missed, by the way, so we will definitely have to give you a nice send-off. There will be a ribbon cutting event at Geneva Epps Mosley Middle School on Monday, December 19th, 2022 at 9 a.m., 1025 South Beck Avenue, Tempe, Arizona. There'll be a ribbon cutting event at Cecil Shamley School on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022 at 8 a.m., 1500 West Scoville Street, Tempe, Arizona. There'll be a ribbon cutting event at Joseph P. Spracali Elementary School on Wednesday, December 21st at 8:30 a.m., 1325 East Malibu Drive, Tempe, Arizona. There will be a thank you reception for outgoing board member Patrick Morales on Wednesday, December 21st, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. I'm getting teary-eyed reading this. You'll be really missed. In the Karen Arredondo Governing Boardroom at the Sanchez Administration Building, 3205 South Roll Road, Tempe, Arizona. Sorry. There'll be a regularly scheduled board meeting Wednesday, December 21st at 7 p.m. in the Karen Arredondo Governing Boardroom at the Sanchez Administration Building, 3205 South Rural Road, Tempe, Arizona. Winter break, yay, will be from December 23rd through January 8th. All district schools and offices will reopen Monday, January 9th, 2023. There will be a regularly scheduled board meeting Wednesday, January 11th, 2023 at 7 p.m. in the Karen Arredondo Governing Boardroom at the Sanchez Administration Building, 3205 South Rural Road, Tempe, Arizona. And the Tempe Elementary Love Your Heart 5K, sponsored by TEEA, will be Saturday, February 18th, 2023 at 8 a.m. at Kiwanis Park.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second. It's the slowest adjourning we've ever had. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? No one? Great. This concludes and motion passes 5-0, and I'm going to hit the table again.